So if you want to be a content creator, that's awesome. People are always looking for photography, especially video content,
right?
How-tos and things like that. And especially things like email newsletters, so
Right.
there's companies that I would write for their newsletters. And so they're really short, really timely kind of blogs and how-tos, or a little cooking demo, or, explaining how to tie a knot, or tying a fly, or explaining how to break down a goose, or anything like that. They're always looking for that content.
Hey, y'all, you've somehow found yourself on the Fishing Business Podcast, and I am going to do my dead level best today to make sure you don't regret the decision to stop in. All right. So today I have a guest, and I've got to let y'all in on something. This is the first time I've ever interviewed someone that I don't know. Last week, I did a short tip on Instagram influencers who I thought you should follow. And one of them was a woman named Courtney Nicolson, who is a producer and a content creator for the Outdoor Channel. And as I did that and was looking at her feed, I thought, I should have her on the podcast to talk about good content. And so I just reached out to her. Don't know her, don't know anybody that knows her. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know anybody that knows me. No connection at all. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes, y'all. It's like I said, a first for me. I think it'll be really good for you. I actually think it'll be really good for me to interview her and hear what she has to say. So, all right, Courtney Nicolson, here we go, y'all. Before we get started, y'all, I want to say I'm having a problem with my internet and Courtney's having a problem with her internet. So if there's weird laggy sounds, that's what it is. So Courtney, welcome. I'm glad you're here on the Fishing Business Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. Starting off right off the bat, of course I went and did a little research on you. And by research, I mean, I looked at LinkedIn. And you went to Pratt Institute in New York. And Pratt, I think of Pratt as art and design and architecture. How does a city slicker design major, I don't know which major in, but how do you get to the outdoors?
That's actually quite a funny story. So I grew up in Massachusetts on Cape Cod and did a decent amount of fishing, but mostly clamming, crabbing, general beach bumming. And I always wanted to work in television. I knew it when I was in middle school. That's all I wanted to do. And so I ended up looking at a bunch of different colleges and wasn't quite sure if I wanted to go into TV broadcast or kind of more fine arts or film. So I looked at a bunch of different schools, NYU, Syracuse, and decided I wanted a little bit more of a fine arts education. And so I ended up going to Pratt and got a BFA in media arts with a focus in film and video, and minored in creative writing. So, lived in New York City for 9 years and worked in the TV industry.
Yeah. How did you wind up in the TV industry?
That's just what I always wanted to do. So I made it happen.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah. I know I've been told it's kind of rare for people to actually work in the field that they went to college for. And I just was never going to take no for an answer. In my graduating class, I believe only 2 of us in my department actually went on to actually work in TV or film.
And how did that happen? Was your first job out of college in the TV industry?
It was. So one thing that I really focused on was I started having internships my freshman summer. So summer after my freshman year in college, when everyone else went home, I could have gone home to beautiful Cape Cod and lay on my beach. I didn't. I stayed in New York City in my apartment that had no air conditioning, and I had an unpaid internship. And then my sophomore year, I got another internship 1 or 2 days a week or afternoons a week after classes, and was also unpaid, and figured out how to make it work with working part-time. I had work study as part of some scholarships and grants I got for school. And I couldn't even get college credit for it at Pratt until junior year. So I couldn't even get credit for it. But I knew how hard it was to, get into this industry, but get into any industry really. So that's just something I committed to doing. So my senior year, I only had 2 classes. I had my 2 senior thesis classes. Both of my classes were Mondays. So I was actually working almost full time at a company called Original Media, which is a production company that does TV shows and some independent films. And so, I was pretty much working there almost full time, getting paid, and as a production assistant. So when I graduated, I just started working Mondays. But that was, a lot of hard work and no accident. And I kind of, a lot of my classmates after graduation started reaching out to me and saying, how do I find a internship? And I was like, oh my goodness, you should have done this a couple of years ago, and I'd say, oh, well, send me your resume and I'll see if I can help you. And they're like, I don't have a resume. And I said, oh, well, just make one up real quick and send it to me. And they said, no, I have nothing to put on a resume.
Oh, wow.
I was like, this isn't good. So better to get started early with any kind of internships, any kind of, whatever it's called, even if it's 1 day a week, 2 days a week, whatever it is.
Last week on the podcast, the guest was Dave Pfeiffer, who's the president of Shimano North American.
Oh,
and
cool.
He said at the end of the podcast, I said, what advice would you give people out there looking for a job in the outdoors? And he said, you got to be the very best, because as an industry, it's a small industry, even though it feels like a big industry to me, it is a small industry, and there's not a lot of great jobs, and everybody wants the great jobs. So you've got to be really, really good to get one of the great jobs. And honestly, Courtney, as you know, I worked in outdoor television also. I feel like working in outdoor television and media is even harder. There's even fewer great jobs. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's definitely a specialized environment for sure. So I think if you can, really pick what you're good at, pick what you love, combine them together and focus on that, you can make it work.
And then, so how did you get from New York to Denver in the Outdoor Channel?
So after working, I worked a lot on set for different TV shows, and decided that I kind of wanted to find a home, wanted to work at a network, and applied to probably every network I could possibly think of that I wanted to work at. And Sportsman Channel actually gave me the best offer and the most interesting offer. And part of what I liked about it was they were a pretty small network at that time based in Wisconsin, but they had a satellite office in New York City. And they really made it clear that, if you were hungry and you wanted to learn and you wanted to wear a lot of hats and get a lot of experience, this was the place. And so even though I had offers from much larger networks, I was just going to be a small pea in the pod, I suppose. And so I started working at Sportsman Channel in 2011. And then when we merged with Outdoor Channel in 2015, they relocated everyone from Outdoor Channel was based in Temecula, California. And Outdoor Channel was based in Sportsman Channel was based in Wisconsin. So they closed those 2 offices and relocated everyone to Denver. And so they offered me a job in Denver and relocated me to Denver. So
awesome. And so what do you do now for the Outdoor Channel?
Yeah, so I've worn a lot of different hats here. I worked my way up. I worked in the creative services department. And so for a long time, I was a writer producer for promotional content. So all of the commercials you see on Outdoor Channel telling you, tune in tonight to watch this show or get ready for a new season starting Monday. all of those promotions are stuff that I would produce. I spent a couple of years actually as a video editor as well, and then left the company for about 2 years. Some of my friends, actually the Kiefer brothers, who have a couple of shows on our networks, were launching a startup. And so I went to go help them launch that in Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And ended up coming back home to work at Outdoor Channel. So now I'm the social media manager for all the Outdoor Channel social brands.
Well, no wonder your Instagram is so awesome. That's how I discovered you, was through Instagram. And I just thought that your channel was really great and well done. And I was like, this is somebody who really understands how to tell a story visually and also otherwise. And so it's interesting that you used to be a writer, or you probably still do a lot of writing, but what do you think makes a good writer? That's a great segue. What makes a good writer?
I think what makes a good writer is just being honest and open and sharing your story. And so I think a word that I hear a lot is authentic and authenticity. And a lot of people love to ask me, especially being a woman in this space, and they say, what do you think about this woman? Do you follow her on Instagram? Do you think she's legit? Do you think she's authentic? What do you think about this woman or that woman? And I don't know what they really want me to say or expect me to say. But my answer is always the same, is that there's authenticity, and being authentic means is that you are upfront and open about who you are, what you do, and where you're at in that journey. And so with those guidelines, there's a lot of people that I don't think are authentic. For sure. But there's a lot of women who are. And so being authentic does not mean that you have to be an expert, for sure. It doesn't mean you had to start, hunting when you were 3. I started hunting when I was 23, I think. And that's, I share a lot about that, and that's my truth. That's my authenticity. And so just being, open and upfront about what your journey is and where you're at in it. One woman I love is Sportswoman Courtney on Instagram. And, she shares quite a lot how she was a sorority girl for most of her life, and, kind of a girly girl, and didn't hunt and fish, and then ended up falling into it and loving it. And I love her sharing her journey. I shoot 3-gun. She just started shooting 3-gun like a year or 2 ago. And she really engages with her fans and has a lot of them by saying, I'm learning how to shoot 3-gun.
Right.
I'm starting from zero. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I've, learning from some really great folks, learning from the best, and diving right in. Shared all about her first match and what it feels like, and being nervous and being excited. And that's being authentic.
Yes.
So you don't have to be an expert or be the best, but just say, this is who I am and this is where I'm at.
Right. It's funny. I used to be a talent on ESPN Outdoors, and that's why the network chose me as a talent, was because I didn't act like an expert. And I asked a lot of questions that, that they felt like some of the other hosts on the outdoor block didn't ask or didn't talk about, because they were either they already knew all that stuff and they didn't think to talk about it, or that they didn't really want to come across as if they didn't know something. Whereas I was happy to say, I have no idea why anybody would want to ice fish. Okay. And then I went and did it and had a great time, and it really changed. And all of that was on camera, and it was really, I guess, an interesting thing to watch. But, along those same lines with talking about women in the outdoors, I get a lot of people who ask me also, like, they want me to criticize certain women, or they may be critical of certain women. And it may be, honestly, there's a lot of people that want to talk to me about women who look really, really good in a swimsuit, and post a lot on social media. But I'm like, good for them. I would never criticize anybody for wearing a swimsuit, going fishing in a swimsuit. But boy, that's a hot topic.
It is. It was funny, actually. A couple of years ago, I was doing a podcast with one of my girlfriends, actually, and she said, "Oh, I can't take all these girls who fish in bikinis." And I go, "I fish in a bikini." She's like, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm a beach girl. I'm from the Cape. I don't want, short tan lines.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm maximum sun. Like, I'm going to get a tan while I'm getting skunked."
Yes.
And it's all what you want to do. It's also just, I get from a lot of people, they go, "Oh, you must get a lot of comments, people leaving you inappropriate comments or this and that." And I say, actually, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I almost never, ever do. And I think it's because of, the content that I choose to share. So that's
Right.
the thing, there's actually been times where I've gone fishing and I've been, wearing a swimsuit and I want to take a picture with a fish. And I go, "Hold on a second," and I'll put on one of my sun shirts, or put my t-shirt back on to take the picture because it's, that's just my kind of content.
That's who you are. And
everyone gets to decide who they want to be. And then, but know that, if people might have comments on stuff. So,
right.
Some people enjoy that. For me, it's,
yeah. I get it. So going back to the writer piece of it, what I hear from a lot of people who I interact with and who listen to this or watch this podcast is that they feel like they're not a writer. Like, I'm not a good writer, so I can't improve my my social media, or I'm not a good photographer, so I can't. What am I? I think everybody's a writer, though, and there's a lot of pressure around being a writer with quotes around it. And I think that's where, when you talk about being authentic, all you have to do is just say what you're thinking, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's, especially nowadays with all the digital content that's out there, there's a lot of different ways to be a writer, right? So we think of top tier being a writer as being published in a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see, not everyone might feel comfortable writing, that length articles, if it's 1,000 words or 1,500 words or something like that, and telling their story. It doesn't mean you don't have a story to tell. I actually have right now, I'm working on a story for one of my friends who's a cancer survivor. And the story of her shooting her first bull elk. And she said, "I really want to share this story. I don't think I can write about it. I'm not a writer. Would you write it for me?" And I said, "Absolutely, I would love to." So that's always kind of an option if someone really wants to get their story out there. But also, just as being a writer, you can write much shorter content. A lot of online editorials, they're a lot more casual, than some of the printed stuff. And then even just for captions, if you're on Instagram and you're posting photos, it doesn't need to be a, long post, even just sharing like a quick 100 words about your hunt, about what you were thinking, about what you were feeling, or your fishing trip or anything like that.
Right.
And so, and the other thing to think about is that if you are a writer and you're submitting articles to different publications, they have editors and copy editors and things like that who are going to be looking at your articles and helping them if they need to be helped. So if you're worrying about, you don't have the best grammar, you don't know much about, AP style writing, that's okay,
Yep. Agreed. So, okay. I love your Instagram page. Like I said, it's very diverse, I think, and it's really got rich content. So how do you plan your posts, or do you just do it on the fly, or are there things that you say, "I'm not going to post this,"
Oh, I wish I had a plan for posting. Honestly, probably in the last year, I tried to post at least once a week or twice a week, and now it's probably more like once a month. So,
well, it's the off season.
Yeah. It's tough for how much, Instagram is very much a love-hate relationship for me. I'm just out there enjoying and on to the next thing, honestly. A lot of times when I go on on trips or on hunts or on fishing trips, I'll take all the photos and then I'll go, oh, I got to post them tonight. And then I'm tired and I go to sleep and I'm going to post them tomorrow night, but we're all together around the fire, hanging out and enjoying ourselves. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to go into my bedroom and go hide out for a half hour and post this. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something definitely to keep up with, but, I've made so many wonderful friends through Instagram, been, partnered with a bunch of different really cool brands, been asked to be on podcasts, been asked to do writing. And so it's definitely a wonderful tool for, networking and meeting new folks, for sure. So planning, I can't say that I do plan. Well, I think it's also, it's what I do for work. So definitely once I get done scheduling everything.
I also think you obviously have a natural ability to understand story and to understand a narrative, whether it's visual or written, or because that's what you do. That's what you do a good job of it. But I wonder, who do you follow on Instagram to be inspired by or to learn from?
Oh, a lot of different people. I think, funny enough, a lot of the people who I follow and who I'm inspired by are right now jewelry makers.
Jewelry makers?
I do. I have my wouldn't call it a guilty pleasure, but I love beautiful silversmith handmade jewelry, and so I follow a bunch of really wonderful women silversmiths from all over the country, and I love watching their seeing their posts and seeing kind of a snapshot of their world and their creative process. And probably because it's something that I've always wanted to try, doing silversmithing and jewelry making. And then, there's a lot of female hunting guides who I love, who I follow. Tia Shoemaker is one of them. She is an Alaskan guide and bush pilot up in Alaska.
Oh, how cool.
Rachel Athila is another one. She guided in Alaska and Montana for sheep and other things. And I'm always drawn to their stories. I used to write a column for Women's Outdoor News called She Guides, and I interviewed a different female hunting guide every month. So I had that column for maybe about a year and a half until actually I ran out of female guides. So if anyone is out there who wants to be a female hunting guide, there's definitely a space for it. And you should.
Well, that's very cool, Courtney. I have to tell you, you're going to be surprised by this, but I'm a silversmith. And,
no way.
Well, very, very, very amateur silversmith. So about 5 years ago, I really got into it, and I learned. I have a friend who's a fabulous silversmith, and she taught me a lot about it. But then I moved, and I ran out of I don't have a space now because it takes a lot of equipment and things that aren't, they're kind of not dangerous, but you have to handle them, the gases that you burn with and that sort of thing, a certain kind of way. But I encourage you to go take a class and go do it, because you'll love to do it.
I will. I would love that. I definitely would love to incorporate some, natural things. I have, some coyote canine teeth and porcupine quills and things like that.
I love it. Yeah.
To integrate some of that neat stuff. I have some ear bones from a sturgeon fish. Yeah. They're really, really cool. Huge that I'd love to make into some earrings. But I really get inspired by a lot of, I love following all of my hunting guide and fishing guide friends. I have a couple of girlfriends who are adventure fly fishing guides. So they've really turned their passion and social media into a really cool career that they kind of do hosted trips. And so, they'll partner with a outfitting company for a destination fly fishing trip, and they'll go and they're the host, and,
That's great.
little bit of a guide, but mostly just kind of being there and making sure everyone has a great time and enjoying it, and, you know, promoting the brand, and pretty neat.
Very cool. Okay, I'm going to take a short break right here. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I sure am. And we'll be right back with Courtney Nicolson. Do you know what your personal brand is? Because everyone has a personal brand. You may not be intentional about it yet, but all that you say or do or write or post contributes to how others perceive you. And that, my friends, is your personal brand. If you want to develop your brand and mean the things you want it to mean, I have a workbook that will help you get started, and it's free. You can download my Developing Your Personal Brand workbook at www.fishingbusinessschool.com/brand workbook. All right, we're back on the Fishing Business Podcast with Courtney Nicolson from the Outdoor Channel. And Courtney on Instagram is Courtney with Freckles. So I love that name. And I sometimes think, you probably don't remember this, but a long time ago when the internet was first invented and AOL, everybody sort of had their internet access through AOL, and you developed these email names and people did the craziest names because they never dreamed that it would become something that they were known for, right? And I've kind of seen some of the same things happen on social media. But I have to say, Courtney with Freckles is memorable.
Well, yeah, if I ever thought I was actually going to use Instagram, I probably would have put more than 2 seconds thought into it, but I don't even remember how I came up with it. I think,
it's great. It's great.
I think I was on a trip and one of my friends said, "Hey, what's your Instagram handle?" And I said, "I don't have one." And they said, "Make one right now." And so I did. So it's pretty funny. We all have a running joke that whenever we go to the trade shows, like to SHOT Show or anywhere else, nobody actually knows any of our last names.
Yeah.
And so, so you have your name badge and, you meet people and you're like, "Why do you look so familiar?" And you're like, "Oh, I follow you on Instagram." And so last year we just scribbled out our last name, and my friend wrote "with Freckles" on mine as my last name. So like, I don't have a last name anymore. That's the only
Freckles
know me, which is.
So how does someone who wants a career in to write specifically or do other kind of content, how do they get, you touched on this in the first segment, but how do they get someone to give them a chance? How would someone get you to give them a chance?
Well, this may not answer your question, but I think that there's a lot of people who approach me all the time and send me DMs, which I love. I love talking to strangers. I get that from my mom. But, I love when people send me DMs and they ask me questions and they say, "How do I get a TV show?" Or how do I get published? And this and that. And I think that just, you have to kind of divide what you're looking for. There's a lot of people who want to be social media influencers, and that's awesome. And that's great. And that is a career now. I don't really have any advice for that.
Right. That's getting lightning to hit.
But figure out what you're good at and what you would like to do. And then, reach out to some companies that you admire. And so I had someone reach out to me, a couple of years ago, and I'll always remember it. And she just said, "I want to work in the outdoor industry." And I said, "That's awesome. Like, I am here to help you. We need more women, period." Yeah. And I said, "What do you do? Are you a writer? Are you a photographer? Do you design products? Do you want to design the next, bow? What do you do? Do you work in PR? Do you work in marketing? Are you a copywriter? Are you an analytics guru?" And she said, "Well, right now I'm a nurse." Oh, okay, cool. So like, you're going to change careers entirely and quit being a nurse and come work in the outdoor industry? And she was like, "Well, no, I couldn't quit my job, but I just really want to work in the outdoor industry and I want to be a part of it." And I'm like, "I don't really understand what you're asking me." And so I'm like, "What do you do? What job do you want?" when you hand someone your business card or you get your paycheck, what does it say as a job title on it? You know, are you a writer? Are you a producer? Are you an account executive? Are you a ad sales, you know, on the ad sales team? You got to specify that. I think people get, you know, working in the outdoor industry is a really cool industry. And, you know, I plan to work on it, you know, in it the rest of my career for sure. But you need to pick something. And so if you want to just be a content creator, and if you want to be a brand representative, you know, and a brand influencer, that's awesome. But that's not, you know, going to work at a company full time. So, you know, people ask me all the time, they're like, oh my gosh, I would love to work for Outdoor Channel. And I said, actually, we have a lot of positions open right now. You know, here's the link to our careers page. And, you know, when you scroll down, you can see what we have open.
Right. And none of them involve fishing or hunting all day.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. The funny thing about my Instagram, people go, you have a dream job. You just get to hunt and fish all day. And I'm like, everything you see on Instagram are PTO days. Yeah,
that's right.
You know, those are vacation days. So I went fishing last week in Florida, and I took a Thursday off and spent the day fishing. And it's like, that was a vacation day. Yeah. That was not a work day. Right. So, you know, I have a 9 to 5 like everybody else and have a cubicle. So, so those are two kind of very separate things. So if you want to work full time, 9 to 5 in this industry, you know, once you've picked out, you know, what are you? You know, are you a marketing manager? Do you want to, you know, do ad sales? You know, there's a lot of really great job boards to look at. One that I'm a member of the Professional Outdoor Media Association, and POMA actually has a really great job board. I've gotten jobs from it before. We always post all of our jobs on there. There's part-time work on there. There's freelance opportunities. Sometimes they're just looking for photo submissions for different magazines.
Great resource.
Yeah. So, so you have to be a member. It's not super expensive to have annual dues for that, but it's the POMA Moneyline listings, and it's really awesome. It's a really wonderful aggregate of all of the hunting and fishing industry kind of jobs out there. There's a couple other job boards. Workinsports.com is kind of more on the sports side of it, but they do sometimes have some crossover jobs posted. Outdoorindustryjobs.com is another one. And just different resources like that. I'd highly recommend subscribing to the Outdoor Wire.
Yeah.
And the Fishing Wire and the Archery Wire, that whole family. They're really great with seeing, you know, catching up on news of companies that are hiring. Of course, you know, they'll share when companies are moving, or the company, you know, they have a merger or an acquisition. You know, you can always kind of pick up on, okay, you know, when Weatherby moved from California to Wyoming, they had to do a considerable amount of, you know, restaffing. So, you know, that's always a great time to look. But what I tell people is just, you know, think of brands that inspire you, who you believe in their mission statement and you believe in their value and their ethics. And, you know, they all have career pages, you know, and if you don't see a job that they're hiring for at the time, you know, send your resume to them and reach out and, you know.
Right. So what
if you're a content creator, same thing.
Right. That's what I was going to say. The content creator, you know, those are positions that get filled in companies now. You know, I have a friend who just graduated from college, who went to work for one of the big retail companies, outdoor retailers. And she actually started in the customer service department. And it was so informative for her she knew she wanted to work as a creator, as a content creator, and she knew there were positions there, but she went ahead and worked in the customer service department. And that has made her really better at her job by listening to what people have troubles with.
You know, that's so important too. I know a woman in the industry who I've seen her on a lot of podcasts and met her briefly, is Mary Ron Pierre, and she used to work at Filson, and now she works at Patagonia.
Mm-hmm.
And she had shared in her story that when she had started at Filson, same thing, she started working in a retail store, instead of working at the corporate office, and really got a firsthand knowledge of the store and the customers, at a ground level.
Right.
And, and that's certainly super important. And I think for content creators, so if you want to be a content creator, that's awesome. People are always looking for photography, especially video content,
right?
How-tos and things like that. And that usually is not a full-time position. That's stuff that people are, hiring people per article, per video, things like that. And especially things like email newsletters, so right. There's companies that I would write for their newsletters. And so they're really short, really timely kind of blogs and how-tos, or a little cooking demo, or, explaining how to tie a knot, or tying a fly, or explaining how to break down a goose, or anything like that. They're always looking for that content. So, same thing. What email newsletters do you read? Which ones do you like seeing in your inbox every week, and actually makes you open them and read? Reach out to them, and right. Send them a couple of pitches and see what they think.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to go here in a minute. I'm going to let you run, but what lights you up right now? What lights you up in the outdoor and the business world?
There's two things that light me up very much. One would be, I am a hunter education instructor.
Oh.
And it's how I love to volunteer. And I'm very excited because we're just about to restart up in-person classes again. Yay! after a hiatus.
After COVID hiatus?
After COVID hiatus. So that's something that I miss very much.
Yeah.
Not only, right now, most of our classes, they're probably half adult and half kids. So we see a lot of adult onset hunters, which is amazing. We see a lot of women. We see a lot of moms bringing in their kids, which is so awesome.
Oh, that's great.
And that just lights up my world. And
that's inspiring.
Yeah. And just women in the outdoors in general. I'm a part of a couple of different women's hunting groups and nonprofits. One is Sisterhood of the Outdoors, who I absolutely love. So if you go onto their website, they organize women's hunting and fishing trips and adventures. And you sign up, and there's anywhere from 3 to 5 other women who come along on your trip, and you all hang out and you hunt and fish together. And so one thing that I hear from women a lot is, I don't have any friends to go hunting with, or I want to learn, or I hunt with my husband, but I'd like to hunt with other women. That is an awesome, awesome place to get hooked up with other women to go on adventures. With one of my dear friends, Amy Ray, runs that company, which I'm a part of. And also here in Colorado, there's a nonprofit called Hunting Divas that I'm on the board for. And we are always getting new women out hunting and mentoring them throughout the year. So we do a big turkey hunt every year. This past fall, we had our first women's pronghorn doe camp. So we had 8 women who came out and hunted pronghorn for the first time.
Fun. Awesome. I will put links to all of these in the show notes so that anybody listening can easily go find them. Okay, quickly, right before we go, rapid fire, advice you'd give your 20-year-old self. That's a hard one.
You might take that crazy hunting channel job.
Perfect. And the last book you read?
Last book I read. Oh, it's sad to say I actually don't read a lot of books.
Oh. Okay.
I read mostly a lot of magazines. So,
all right, the last magazine you read.
Project Upland magazine is one that I absolutely love.
Nice, yeah.
It's absolutely exceptional storytelling.
Yes, it is. Very, very good. Okay. And your favorite podcast?
favorite podcast? Well, now it's the Fishing Business.
You don't have to say that, but really, I love to introduce our listeners to other good podcasts. What's another one you like?
One that I love actually is the Meateater Podcast.
What?
Meateater.
Oh, Meateater. Oh my gosh. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. I'm so glad you said that.
So that's one that I love to listen to for hunting. And then the Three Gun Show podcast is one that I love to listen to. If anyone's interested in getting into 3-gun shooting, or just competition shooting in general, that one's awesome. 3-Gun Show.
Cool. Okay. Again, I'll link to all of those too. Courtney, thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you've got much better things to do with your day, much better things to use your wild and precious time for. But I appreciate you spending it with us at the Fishing Business Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, after we stopped recording, Courtney and I started talking there, and she said the greatest thing, and I wish we would have been recording so you could have heard it, but I'm going to tell you what she said. She said, I think of my Instagram account as if it were the part of my resume. You know how at the bottom of your resume, you'll have your education and your work, but at the bottom it'll say interests, and you may say fishing or hunting or volunteering in my local YMCA. She thinks of her Instagram as the other interests on a resume, which I think is such a great way to look at that. When you want someone to know more about you and not just about who you are professionally or who you want to be professionally, when you want someone to know more about you, then that's where your social media channels can come in. So think of it that way, y'all. It's a really great piece of advice there from Courtney Nicolson from the Outdoor Channel. All right. Thank you so much for spending your 1 hour or almost an hour of your wild and precious life with us here at the Fishing Business Podcast. I'm going to sign off now the way my favorite fisherman always signed off his show, The Fishing Hole, by saying this is dedicated to Dad because he always had time to take me fishing. See you next time, y'all.